Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the New York Giants Squad Show. My name is Jay Berman. Question now is Wilson or Dart? Well, we know the answer for this week, but things should be interesting in the following weeks.
Hey everybody, I'm Patricia Traina, and the Giants haven't gotten off to a fast start for a season. Can they avoid 0-2 for the fourth consecutive time?
Hi, I'm Mark Collins, two-time Super Bowl champion. From the legendary game show Password, the password is redo. The Giants get a redo at what they did, messed up on the first time.
Let's go, Big Blue. It's the New York Giants squad. Everything New York Giants every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the G-Men. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. The Giants Squad Show starts now.
All right, what a wild week one it was. It's Jay, it's Patricia, and it's Mark. And it's great to have you here on the New York Giants Squad Show. Welcome to the Squad Show, both on the Locked On Giants YouTube channel and the Locked On Giants podcast feed. Today's episode sponsored by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. We'll dive right in. Obviously, a horrible week one. Patricia, have we cleaned the wounds from week one as we gear up for week two?
Based on my social media follows, no. It's like, here we are again, the Giants starting out, with a bad loss. It just seems like the last, 2 years under Brian Dable, the team has not looked ready. And it's at this point, it's like, okay, what's going on here? It's like you would expect that maybe 1 year, but last 2 years, so now they're looking to avoid another 0-2 start. They've started 0-2 the last 2 seasons. This would be the third in a row if they should fall. Let's hope that it's better because last week was kind of ugly.
Yeah, Mark, I was going to say, win or lose, things are obviously not where the Giants would like them to be. That being said, and I know this is crazy because it's week 2 and the season just started, but this feels as close to a must-win without actually being a must-win.
Oh, absolutely. The first game was abysmal. It was embarrassing. You would think with all the work that they put in the offseason to fix certain weaknesses on the team, and they didn't get it done, especially on the offensive line. And as Patricia said, 2 or 3 years in a row, these slow starts, 0-1, 0-2, and 0-3, something's got to change. Something's bound to change. And I don't know what it is as far as the slow starts. I don't know if it's a training regimen, a coaching regimen, but something is going awry and it needs to be fixed.
Yeah, what's interesting is that as we discussed last week on both shows, really, the fact that they're opening against 2 division opponents on the road, really interesting, I guess, combinations of games in that order for the Giants schedule. But Patricia, we wrote it down on our rundown before the show started, and obviously it begins and ends with the quarterback, and that's where we'll start here with Russell Wilson. Obviously, it would have been quite a surprise to see Dart start week 2, but as we go further along, perhaps it's not much of a surprise if we eventually get to Dart.
Yeah, look, I know the temptation is there to get him out there. I know some of the fans want him out there, but you got to fix that offensive line. That's the biggest problem. I thought the interior of the Giants offensive line last week was just atrocious. All right. They got no push. It was like they were turnstiles. And I know that sounds mean, but that's what I saw. Jackson Dart could be the answer. The kid got the ball out of his hands quickly, but I think you got to also put things into perspective here. Jackson Dart, we saw him primarily against backups in the preseason, against some guys who maybe aren't even on NFL rosters. Now, that doesn't mean that the kid's going to be lousy. Don't get me wrong, but that's a big reason, that and the offensive line, 2 big reasons why maybe Brian Dable doesn't want to push him out there just yet until he checks off every single box he needs to. And the good news, folks, he's doing it. There hasn't been any setbacks in his development that I heard of. There's a lot of optimism. I do think at some point we will see him. I just don't know if it will necessarily be this week if Russell Wilson struggles.
Yeah, I think that that's a perfect segue into does Russ struggle and what happens if he does, Mark? Obviously, there's going to be calls, there's going to be boos, there's going to be all kinds of uh, verbal and audio type stuff that wants Dart in. That being said, there seems to be a lot of pressure now on Russell Wilson. Does he have to win or does he just have to play well or both?
Oh, he's gonna do both, and justifiably so on your previous comments. Yeah, he's got to play well, and he's got to get it done. And I said this last week. You don't want to see Jackson Dart in this early in the season. Now, Giants go 1-1. Russell keeps his job. They go 0-2, 0-3. It's time to, like I said before, push that break glass in case of emergency. Push break glass button. But the Russell's got to play well. The Giants got to play well. The offensive line got to get their stuff together. Without that, nothing happens on great for the offense. The offensive line must establish something. The simplest thing, once again, run the damn ball. I don't care about shortening the game. I don't care if you get 3 yards a pop. 3 yards a pop is third or fourth and 1. Go for it or whatever. Based on field position, do something. But you sit back there, Russell Wilson or Jackson Dart, and try to pass the ball with no offensive line, it's over.
Why were there so many troubles to run the ball? Obviously, we know it's the offensive line, but it seemed like they abandoned it pretty quick last week, Patricia.
Yeah, I mean, that's common with Brian Dable's offense. But I think the biggest problem, again, the interior of the offensive line was getting absolutely no push. I mean, you saw guys getting bullied. You saw guys missing stuff, blocks. When they get to the second level, which I don't think was very often successfully, they just weren't they weren't doing their jobs is what it boils down to. And I think the guards, everybody's going to say, well, John Michael Schmitz, the center, was bad. He was bad, but I thought the two guards, John Runyon Jr. and Greg Van Roten, I thought they were the bigger problems in the run game because there was no push whatsoever. And if you're not beating your guy at the point of attack, guess what? Your running backs aren't going to have any place to go. And that's what we saw.
We've seen, especially with the Giants, we've seen O-lines go from bad to good and obviously vice versa, Mark. How does this get fixed? Now, we know it's week 2, so we still have 4 months left of this. But if you want to do it quickly, considering your job's at stake, how do we fix this quick?
I once again, I say this all the time. Go back to the basics. And one of the basic things that an offensive lineman can do is move someone forward, move forward. If you can't just run the ball, move forward, try to beat your guy man to man, mano a mano, just do that. Just give me that. You have to have a starting point. And the Giants got to start with their starting point with running the ball. They got to establish something. Off that, you can do whatever you want. You can do screens, you can do play action passes. But if you can't establish a run, you're going nowhere. Now, how do we fix that? How do you fix that? This early in the season, it can be done. You simplify your game plan. We're going to run the ball left. We're going to run the ball right. And we're going to run up the middle. No kind of fancy guard, tackle, pulls, none of that stuff. Just beat your man and run the ball forward. That's the simplest way I can put it.
Yeah, and I assume that we're going to get Andrew Thomas back in the next week or two, considering he wasn't placed on IR, didn't miss 4, or he's not going to miss 4 games. That is a huge key to this. Obviously, the left side of the offensive line, in particular, his backup Hudson was not good. So again, Patricia, this is Andrew Thomas time. It's time for him to get back.
I don't know if he's going to make it this week. I think realistically speaking, my guess would be week 3 against Kansas City. And I say that because this week on Wednesday, he didn't practice. And that raised a red flag for me because the Giants had 4 days off? And I was like, okay, why is he not practicing? Because if you remember last week, he did practice on Wednesday. And then they sat him for Thursday. And then he was limited for Friday. So the key, and we haven't seen the injury report yet as we record this, but the key is I think they want to get Andrew Thomas on the field to practice 2 days in a row, at least limited, but he's still building himself back up. I would be very surprised if he plays this weekend. I do think week 3 is the date they have circled on the calendar, so to speak.
As for the running backs, it did. The Giants went away from Tracy rather quickly early in Washington. Is he the problem, or let me ask it this way, Mark? Do the Giants think that he's the problem? I guess that's a better way to put it.
No, well, if they think that they're stupid, I mean, obviously they're stupid. I mean, I don't care if you put Jim Brown back there, the offensive line. You're not gonna, if you can't move anybody, you can't run the ball effectively. So of course they gave up on the run because they couldn't do nothing with the guys up front. You know, I think Tracy's a hell of a back. He'll get the job done if he has a lane or a yard or two start to get going. So the Giants got to fix that problem, and everything does stem from the run. I know I'm regurgitating the same thing, but even from the defensive side of the ball, I know if you can stop a team from running the ball and all they have to do is pass, oh, that's an easy win for the defense. So the Giants got to establish the run and then play off of that.
More Scatterbo, please. Huh, Patricia? It seemed like in small doses it was effective. Now, obviously, he's not a lead back, but I would love to see them get him more involved.
Yeah, so would I. But again, for whatever the reason, I mean, if you go back and you look at the history here with Brian Dable's offense, he tends to get away from the run a little too prematurely at times. Now, in the game last week, the Giants kept it close for most of the game. I think they were only down by one score, maybe 8 points at one point before it broke open. So why would you get away from the run? Why wouldn't you go for the balance? And the only reason I can come up with was they weren't getting any push on the offensive line. Now, I would think that as an offensive lineman moving forward, to run block would be a lot easier than backpedaling the pass pro. So the offensive line, again, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse here, but they didn't really do anything well in either aspect of the game. So it was kind of at that point for Brian Dable and offensive coordinator Mike Kafka, it was like, okay, what's the lesser of the evils here?
Yeah, and I was just going to bring up Kafka. So that's a perfect segue, Mark, into the relationship between Kafka, now on the sidelines calling plays, and Brian Dable, the offensive guru, for lack of a better term. But that's an interesting dynamic. At some point, does Kafka feel like Dable's breathing down his neck in regards to calling the plays?
Well, probably so, especially when the stuff isn't working. You know what I mean? So like last week, the 3 and outs, the negative plays, that really falls on the defense. The defense carries that weight. When the defense is out there, more plays than the offense, and at some point, as Patricia said, the game was close, and it wasn't because of what the offense was doing. It was because basically 2 things: the defense played okay enough, but first of all, Washington was shooting itself in the foot. So all the penalties and all stuff like that, Washington was helping out and basically giving the Giants a chance to stay in the game and win the game. But the play calling, the 3 and outs, the negative plays, can't establish a run or a pass or nothing. There's nothing there. So Kafka, yeah, of course, he's feeling the pressure this week. No doubt about it.
Yeah, it feels like at some point, now obviously it's week 2, as we said, but it feels like at some point Dable's going to take over the play calling. Again, he hasn't yet, but it feels like that's something coming. Let's wrap up the offense here. And Patricia, I'll start with you, and I want to get both of your opinions here. Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart, how much longer does Russell Wilson get the starting nod under center?
I think until maybe Andrew Thomas returns, because the offensive line, the pass protection, the tackles, I mean, the Jermaine Illuminor, I thought, was the better of the 2 tackles. James Hudson, I think, struggled a little bit. He protects the quarterback's blind side. Well, you want your best guy out there. And I suspect that the Giants want to get Andrew Thomas back in there. They want to maybe give him a game to kind of get his sea legs back underneath him, if you will. And then if things are still kind of, shaky, maybe then we would see that. But I can't see putting a young quarterback behind this offensive line. If it's going to perform like it did against the Commanders, why would you risk ruining him? I mean, goodness, didn't we learn our lesson with Daniel Jones, how they rushed him out? And we saw what happened with him.
I totally agree with you. My only rebuttal, and we'll throw this to Mark, is that what if the offensive line doesn't get fixed at any point this season? Dart is just not going to play?
Well, he's going to play. That's where you break the glass and pull that lever down, the emergency part. But, I agree with Patricia. I mean, you want to wait till week, till Thomas comes back. But if Jackson plays in the Dallas game, second half, they're telling everybody on the team, hey, listen, we're in an emergency situation. Let's just make something happen. I hope that doesn't happen. I think the Giants, hopefully, they get to do their restart, and figure it out. But if Dart's playing week 2 or week 3, they're going, okay, the Russell Wilson experiment is over. We got to go to the next level.
All right, we've destroyed the offense enough. Now we're going to set our sights on Mark's defense, because obviously there's trouble there as well. We'll do that when we come back. All right, time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or just need a little extra push to power through your day, 5 Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. Golf is all about good times with good people and, of course, good flavors. The grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5 Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down the beverage cart. Now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip. Visit 5agwin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. All right, we are back and we are set for block number 2. And obviously we picked on the offense a fair amount. Mark, we'll start with the defense. Obviously, there were struggles there. The injury bug has bit the Giants early. That's Micah McFadden, a huge piece to that defense. Obviously, that's a big blow, Mark.
Oh, absolutely. We have to use a player like that. It's a huge cog in your wheel, so you can roll. But the Giants got to fix it. And one of the things that I've come away with watching them in practice a little bit and seeing what their depth chart, I don't know what defense they're running, and I'll expand on that. I don't know if it's a 4-3 with 4 linebackers or 3 linemen or 3-4. I have no idea. And they got smaller linebackers. And I go back to what I said last week when they had the starters were playing the last preseason game against the Jets, and Aaron Glenn and the Jets just ran the ball right down their throats at will. And I'm going, they're running the ball at the Giants because they got they have smaller linebackers in there against the bigger offensive linemen. So what do you do against something like that? Well, I would tend to think, and I know I'm not trying to bring up the 86 and 90 Giants, we have big linebackers, but some of these guys, when you're going to 4-3, put your best players out there, linebacker-wise, to rush, whether it's Carter and Thibodeau on the outside rushing the passer. So you want pass rushing guys, you want run stoppers. It all depends on what he wants to do. I don't know what they're trying to do. I know Dexter Lawrence is in there as a run stopper. I don't think it's enough. But at some point, defensively, the Giants got to figure out what they want to do, what they want to take away, and fix that.
Yeah, it's interesting because now we might see Abdul Carter, or at least line up in a lot of the same spots that McFadden was there for. That seems like an adequate fill-in, but again, McFadden has been unsung, Patricia, so it's a big loss. But again, we could see Carter in that spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Shane Bowen today, as a matter of fact, said that is a possibility. Now, do you want to see Carter at that spot every snap? I don't think so. I think you might see Dane Belton, who has kind of played a safety hybrid linebacker, maybe in passing situations, and have Carter hunt, which is what he's really, what's really his strength at this point. So yeah, it's a big problem because look, the Giants, they added all this talent up front to stop the run, and we didn't see it. And I did a breakdown on my show 107 of the 220 yards that the Commanders gained on the ground came on first down. So if you're not stopping that run on first down and second down, and and you're creating short yardage situations, good luck to the defense.
Yeah, where was Dex? I mean, obviously, and congratulations to Dex for the birth of his child. But that being said, the performance on Sunday, Mark, was less than desirable.
Well, I mean, I don't know if he's getting double teamed. I don't know, but he didn't show up the way as we thought he probably would. Can he rectify that? He has no choice. All right, against Dallas, and I'm pretty sure the New York media, New Jersey media, has gotten on him, because he was MIA. Maybe he had someone as my birth of his child. You never know. But, he's got to show up when he's needed, when he's counted upon. And, they're running the ball like against the Giants like that when he's supposed to be the guy, the run stopper. That's a bit embarrassing. So he's got to rectify. He's got another shot at it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, Patricia, we all know if Dex isn't going to go, full bore and be 100% Dex, then the run defense has no chance.
Yeah, speaking of Dex, he said after the game that he was out of his flow a little bit. And I've got to confess, I'm a little confused as to why they did what they did with him during the preseason. I mean, his elbow was fine. He was able to practice. I understand, don't put your most important guys out there because, God forbid they get hurt. But you got to get them in football shape. And to me, I don't think Dexter Lawrence was in ideal football shape. I think that takes time. And, you have to get hit. You've got to hit people in order to get into football shape. And I just didn't sense that from Dex. And I thought, as the game went on, he looked a little winded to me.
Your thoughts, Mark?
Possibly. I mean, Patricia would know she was at camp, but that's a conditioning thing. And a guy who's like that, an established veteran, should know better. He shouldn't be in that situation from the beginning, unless he has other things going on in his life, which I don't know. But if he's winded, that's a conditioning thing, and he should know better. And he knows what he needs to get in shape, especially during camp, ramping up to the season.
It's also ironic because we saw this year, at least in the Dable Shane regime, that starters were actually playing preseason games, something that they had not done in previous years. That being said, as Patricia pointed out, Dex seemed winded. So maybe Dex didn't play enough in the preseason.
He didn't play at all in the preseason. That's what I'm getting at. He practiced. And look, I don't want people to get the wrong idea. I'm not saying that Dex was totally out of shape, but I do believe, and Mark, you can probably, attest to this. You have to go out there, play the speed of the game, get hit and be hit, because there is no substitution, especially if you think about it. Dable doesn't allow tackling to the ground. He basically, the bare minimum. You have to get into football shape, especially if you're playing in the trenches, because you can get beat up and winded very quickly, I think, if you don't, do that. So while I applaud that Dable actually played his starters a little bit more in the preseason, and while I understand that, we don't want to get Dexter hurt, we don't want to get Malik Neighbors hurt, we don't want to get this guy hurt, you got to put him out there at some point. We're not talking, they're not, delicate eggs or pieces of crystal here. Injuries are going to happen, at any time, any place, anywhere. You can't be afraid of that.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm interested to hear your thoughts, Mark.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. There's two shapes. There's regular shape and there's football shape. And we call it, you got to set the pads, right? You got to go hit somebody else other than your teammate. And that's the live action that you need in preseason. Whether it's two drives or three drives, whatever, you got to get that real game time speed. Not just the game time speed, you also need the emotion, the energy that comes from playing in a live game. Even though it's preseason, it's still live playing against the opponent. You need to feel all that. And it's a feeling that is hard to explain unless you're in it. And I've been in it for 13 years, but you need that. And if Dexter didn't get that live feeling of all the emotion that comes with playing, which I know he's a veteran, he can get it, but you still need to do it. That'll show up at some point early in the season, and they might have showed up against Washington.
Yeah, and with all that said, this is a huge, at least to me, a huge opportunity for Abdul Carter to step up and be the guy they thought they were going to be. Now, obviously, he doesn't play Texas position, but the better the defense plays, the more guys stand up, the better the team is going to be. This is a huge opportunity for Abdul Carter to, again, step up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw in the first game, they played him a little bit here, a little bit there. I think he played, on the end. I think a couple snaps were played inside. He rushed, hand in the dirt, stood up. It was almost as though they were trying to figure out the best way to deploy him. That's kind of the impression I got by playing him around so many times, in so many different positions. So I think ultimately they're going to figure it out. But I still say that, Abdul Carter is going to be at his best when you allow him to hunt. That's not to say he can't cover, because he showed it he can in Penn State. He played inside linebacker for 2 seasons at Penn State. But why did you got to go back to, why did we draft this kid? What do we like so much about this kid? And I think it's that pass rushing, that hunting ability that he has showed, and the ability to set the edge against the run. And if you're moving him around all, to different places, still trying to figure it out at this point, I don't know. I find that odd.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Patricia. And you're still trying to they're trying to find a spot for him, right? I'm going, well, let him rush. Let him do what he does, okay? After he does what he does, then if you want to drop him off in coverage, yeah, it's fine. But put that kid in there. Let him go. Let him go do what he wants to do, what you think he could do. I think he'll be a great difference maker, no doubt about that. If you just don't let him think too much, just let him do his job and rush. I agree with you, Patricia. I think the Giants will figure it out. They'll make it simple for him. Just go, rush the passer, set the edge. Ball comes your way, set the edge, make the stop. Ball goes away, check and reverse, go get the ball. It's the simplest thing to do.
Is there a number in mind, points-wise, to hold Dallas down, Patricia, that you feel the Giants need to sort of focus in on as a target as far as winning the game?
Well, given how the Giants have been hard-pressed to score, I would say 0. To be honest with you. But no, seriously, I think if they hold them to under 17 and the offense, gears up and shows that it can, produce. I mean, we didn't see a whole lot of the deep ball last week, which was kind of disappointing. But again, the protection's got to be there. There's some interesting matchups that I think the Giants offense can take advantage of. So, I would like to think under 17, but like I said, with how hard it's been for the Giants to score points, 0 would probably be ideal.
Yeah, especially on the road. Mark, your thoughts on a number?
I don't have a number. I just want them to damn win. I mean, I don't care about all that stuff. And, Dallas is coming in feeling pretty good, right? They're feeling pretty good about playing the Eagles and how they had a chance to win the game, all this other stuff. I just want the Giants to show well and show me something. If you get a win out of it, great. Just don't show me what I saw last week, because I can't watch that another 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 games.
And we don't want to lose you, Mark. So things will hopefully be better. We need to take a break because we've done the offense and the defense. Now we have to do Dallas, and we'll do that next. All right, up next is FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Well, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, here we go. Halfway home on the New York Giants squad show. We'll dive right now into the rut. that we've basically discussed for the better part of 3 shows now. But I think as we reset halfway through this particular show, we're falling into that same trap, same old Giants. And Patricia, it's sickening. I'm tired of it. Things need to change. Come on.
I agree. I mean, as I say every Monday after a game, I'm running out of ways to say the
Right.
Giants weren't very good. And pretty soon I fear that I'm going to say something that I'm going to be like, oops,
Right.
It just seems like it's a different issue every week. But, you look at the bigger picture for this team. Where is the energy? Malik Neighbors spoke about that. He's like, I didn't like the energy on the sidelines. And what blew my mind about that Washington game, and I hope this doesn't repeat against Dallas, is you had how many weeks, how many months to get ready for that game, and your energy level was low, that Malik Neighbors had to just say, hey, what's going on here? I mean, you only get to play, 17 games minimum? If you're sometimes if you're lucky, you get to play a little bit more, but it's a 17-game season and you can't get your energy level up. So that was a concern, as was the fact that the team, I'm not sure how prepared they were on the whole. Now, people will say, oh, it's the coaching. Some people will say it was the execution. I think it was a combination of the two. And again, I don't understand. You've had all this time to get ready. You knew who the opponents were going to be. You knew who the personnel was they were bringing in, and you still weren't ready for it. And that's what really blows my mind. And that's a recurring problem we have seen recently, to start the season with this team.
It's interesting, Mark, because obviously the Giants are quite a storied franchise, but for some reason, there's this rut that we're in, and it's lasting way too long. You, as a former Giant, for a stretch that was the exact opposite of this, this has got to be troubling to you.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, I first of all, I can't understand how you come out flat week 1 of the NFL season.
Divisional opponent too.
Yeah, you come out flat. Oh, our energy level. It's week 1. As Patricia said, you had a whole offseason training camp. This was bubbling over, and you're coming out flat. That's not coaching. Has nothing to do with your energy. Nothing. That's on you. And if somebody's got to motivate you, as Bill Parcells would said, if somebody's got to motivate you for this, you need to have your head examined. So I don't understand this logic. Now, the frustrating part for me, being a lifelong Giant great and 8-year starter, but I digress, to see the success that we had, and even during Eli's years, to this is frustrating. And I'm talking as a quasi-analyst, but as a Giant fan and as a Giant. I can't say what I really want to say, but I'll keep it clean. This is not good. And I feel bad for the fans who have to put up with this stuff. So when I hear a player telling me about the energy or they're flat, what in the bleep are you talking about? It's week 1 of the season. You were here last year. Okay, listen, I'm going to digress. Back to your question, Jay. It's frustrating. It really is. And hopefully, I know it's week 1, going to week 2, that the team can fix it and get things going on the right path. I know there's some holes on both offense and defense that we thought collectively were fixed. If week 1 is a small microcosm, hopefully, of what doesn't manifest down the season, I think we can fix that. That would be a good thing. And hopefully we get a restart, as I said earlier, this week against Dallas.
Fans usually, whether they want to or not, seem to make more of something that the team likes to downplay. That being said, the Neighbors Dable, whatever you want to call it on the sidelines, week 1, you get smoked, and now you're infighting. I mean, it's like, what am I supposed to think, Patricia?
Yeah, I mean, that Look, Malik Neighbors talked about wanting to be more of a leader, wanting to be more vocal. And I applaud the kid because, look, somebody's got to scream when the emperor doesn't have any clothes on. You know what I mean? So, I just, I can't explain, any lack of energy. I mean, you look at the Giants sideline, and the only time you really see them get excited, sometimes you see them get excited for a scoring play or of a sack or something like that. But the energy, it was flat. It was almost like they were sitting in the stands, like, like, okay, they're just watching the game, and and just I just don't know. Like Mark said, if you can't get up for this, then maybe you should rethink, where you are in life.
What an indictment of top to bottom. I don't, we're not individually picking on people here. It's big picture here, Mark. It's embarrassing.
Oh yeah. Look, remember the preseason when Jackson Dart threw a touchdown. I guess I was against the Jets. I don't know who it was. And the whole sideline ran over and congratulated him. See all that energy that was there? Was it genuine? I felt it. I was excited for the kid. I was excited for the guy who caught the touchdown. That's cool. You see that? That's the way. Now, is it that way the whole year? Sometimes, yeah, it is. But to see that in preseason and then see what we saw against Washington, totally flat. There was no energy. Once again, that's not the coach's fault. That's players. You're accountable to yourself and to your teammates and to a point to the fans. No one deserves to see that shit. They don't. And I don't want to see it. So at some point, take the onus upon yourself. Stop blaming the coaches or whatever. It's on you as a player and the leaders on that team. And I said this last week as well. I can't tell you who the leader of the Giants is. I can't tell you. Just because you got a C on your shirt don't mean you're a captain. It doesn't mean you're a captain. It means that someone gave you a C. You got to lead by example, and you got to do the rest, all the things that captains do. So, we'll see what happens this week and going down the season.
All right. Specifically, there are some matchups we want to focus in on highlight. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb and whoever guards him, I guess Drew Phillips to start. Patricia, that is a focus, obviously, of us, and I'm sure it's a focus of the Giants. That's a huge matchup and one to watch.
Yeah, I think you're going to see CeeDee Lamb a little bit in the slot, like you said, against Drew Phillips. But I think mostly I would be surprised if they play him all game long in the slot. I think you might see Paulson Adebo draw CeeDee Lamb in that particular matchup. And, on the other side, you've got Cordell Flott and you've got Deontay Banks alternating. Deontay Banks comes in on third down. Did a decent enough job last week. I thought both guys were okay. They weren't, the big part of the problem. And, you could say the whole defense was a problem, but they weren't as big of a deal. But CeeDee Lamb is definitely a guy who's going to come in. I don't think he had a good game against the Eagles. So he's going to be extra motivated to come in and say, and to flush last week's game off and say, look, I am still the king here.
Yeah, he had the drops last week. Yeah. Obviously, Mark, the situation with Banks and Flott is one that you can zero in on, being the expert that you are. Your thoughts there as the Giants try and somehow shut down CeeDee Lamb?
Well, I don't know. First of all, the Giants in this defense, they don't travel the corners. So I don't think it's going to be a matchup with Lamb or if he goes slot inside or outside. So they're not going to travel anybody, whether it's Phillips or anyone else. As far as the left corner or right corners or Flott and Banks, I think they're both playing a right corner. Predominantly in the football sense, your left corner is like playing third base because predominantly most quarterbacks in the NFL, they're 92-95% are right-handed. So they're looking at the left corner. That's the alpha position, left corner. And the Giants, do they have a guy who can hold up on the left side? I don't know yet. I don't know. Banks started at left corner, and there's that right corner. Flott started over there, and there's that right corner. I don't know who's that guy. Who's ever at that left corner, they're going to be the focal point. And whether it's Lamb in the slot or he's going to line up on the right side of the Giants offense, of the Cowboys offense, rush the left corner. Whoever that corner is going to be going to get tested, and that corner's got to hold up. Hopefully, hold up with a good pass rush. Hopefully, they'll stop the Giants defense, stop the run. But you got two corners who are battling for one job on the right side. They're doing college shit. They're doing rotating corners. Who does that on the pro level? When you play corner, you're supposed to own that spot. You own that left side or the right corner. You know, rotating. You don't do that stuff on the pro level. But that's what the Giants are doing. So I don't understand that. But who's ever playing against Lamb and the other guys, they got to wake up. They got to stand up and do the job and stop who's ever they're covering.
It's funny. I was just going to say, you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. Maybe it's the same with cornerbacks as well. When you got two, it's because you don't have one. That being said, obviously there's some defensive liabilities, if you will, in regards to Dallas. No Micah Parsons and no Deron Bland. It doesn't look like he's going to play. So those are obviously key losses for the Dallas defense, Patricia.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Micah Parsons off in Green Bay, the Giants probably celebrated when that trade was made. So that's going to be interesting to see on how they compensate for that pass rush. But the key matchup, in my opinion, is going to be whoever's going to fill in for Deron Bland. So he's a guy who, I think plays the slot. And I was just writing this earlier today. I said, if I'm the Giants, I play Malik Neighbors in the slot a lot, because Malik Neighbors is going to beat, and I can't remember who the backup is to Deron, but I would put Malik Neighbors in there because I think he could win that matchup and he could do some serious damage against that Dallas secondary. I know the Giants occasionally put Malik in the slot, but you know what? He's been pretty good in the chances that he's had in the slot. Not as many as playing on the outside, but this could be a really good, opportunity for them to break things open by pairing him against whoever that backup is if Deron can't play.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just thinking the exact same thing in the slot, and then I realized that Wan'Dale actually played well last week, so maybe that's a spot where Wan'Dale can thrive again, Mark.
Or you move him outside.
Right,
you move Wan'Dale outside and see, if you can't get, you can move these guys around. You can, when you keep locking them into the same position, it becomes easy to defend. And then the other thing is, you got to play matchups. And, look, Malik Neighbors can beat anybody. I'm not saying, give them the easiest matchup. But if you're looking to really jumpstart this offense, why not exploit that weakness?
No, it makes sense. And if you do that, if you put Neighbors in the slot, especially if you got a backup corner slot guy covering him, they're going to double him. That's going to open up the outside with Wan'Dale, whoever's going to be outside. So that'll be a great move. That's if the Giants do it. That's what I would do. But we'll see what happens if that happens. I hope they do, and if they do that, Giants got a good shot of moving the ball.
It's also interesting that there was no Jalen Carter week one for the Eagles against the Cowboys because of obviously the spitting incident. Yeah. That being said, I think a lot of people, once we figured out or once we saw that Carter was going to be out, that Dallas had a chance to win. They did have a chance to win, but they still lost without the Eagles' best defensive player. So what's that say about Dallas, Patricia?
It says that maybe they were rusty. I don't know. I mean, the game plan might have been off. I mean, I know in the beginning they were a little, herky-jerky with how they played, and they settled down a little bit as the game went on. But, Dallas is not, a brick house. They're beatable. They are absolutely beatable. I think every team is, but Dallas more so than maybe the Eagles. So it's just a matter of getting the ideal matchups. And the Giants defense versus the Cowboys offensive line, that line has undergone some changes. It's not the old world line that we remember from the Larry Allen days and whatnot. But so there's a potential for some plays to be made. And then on the other side of the ball, the Giants, they just got to stop with the mistakes. That's another thing. We haven't really talked about it, but the pre-snap penalties, the drop passes, the missed assignments, the whiffs that we see. I mean, there were so many mistakes when I went back and looked at the film where I said, oh, that guy missed a blocker. Oh, that guy missed a stunt, or that guy did this. You got to clean that up.
No doubt about it. And one particular Cowboy that we have not discussed yet, of course, is the quarterback. That's Dak. And we will do that next in our final block of the show as we get set for Giants and Cowboys. All right, last but not least is Mazda. You can just move through life, or you can find the things that move you. It's your choice. You can choose to get out there, choose your people. You can choose to go for it, like really go for it. Just choose to do something that moves you. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, last block of the show. And as we mentioned before the break, Dak, Mark, Dak. What are we going to get from Dak on Sunday?
You're going to get Dak being Dak. Okay, Dak is he's gonna do what he wants to do. He's gonna try to throw the ball, of course, and move around and scramble. Here we go, all that stuff. Yeah, we know what's happening. We do, but he's stoppable. I think the Giants, hopefully, they'll rise to the occasion. But Dak's they're gonna try to establish a run, play action pass, take some shots. That's what they do. Try to be balanced as possible. Dallas is they're not the juggernaut they back in the old days and with the big offensive line and stuff. Dak is a very, very, very serviceable quarterback. Productive, not as methodical as some, but he's very mobile and can get some things done. The Giants, could they stop him? Yeah. I think they'll do a pretty good job this week.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking that the entire time while we were discussing this, that it feels like, which means nothing, but it feels like, Patricia, this could be a low-scoring game.
I hope so. That means that the two defenses are doing their job. When it comes to Dak, I don't think Dak is quite the same player he was before he had all those lower body injuries. I don't know that they move him around, with designed runs as much as they used to. But that being said, he can roll around in the pocket. He can extend plays with his legs. And the Giants, they just got to, box him in, and stop him from extending a play because, Mark, you could probably attest to this. Down the field, you can only hold coverage for so long before a guy wiggles away from you. So if you give Dak 5 seconds to throw or over 2.5, I think is the cutoff, he's going to make some plays on you.
Yeah, I was going to say the tight ends for Dallas too, Mark. Those are always giant killers. Always, regardless of where the Cowboys and Giants play, there's a Dallas tight end waiting to stick it to the Giants.
Yeah, they always is it Dallas Goddard there? Is that who's the tight end?
Jake Ferguson.
Jake Ferguson. Oh God, yeah, he's just the Giants. I don't know what it is. They can't stop the Dallas's tight ends. I don't know what it is, but if it's CeeDee Lamb, it's going to be a tight end. So the Giants know it. Just can't stop the damn guys.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Let me just say this, and this is 2 division games to start, which is rare. The last thing you want to do is start off 0-2, obviously, but the fact that they're division games as well. Folks, they only play 6 of them. A third of them down, they could be losses. And Patricia, that is just killer right out of the gates.
Oh, absolutely, because each win or loss in this case, it's like a game and a half. Because when you get to the tiebreakers, guess what the first tiebreaker is? It's head-to-head. So the Giants, 0-2 in the division, that's not a good start. So if they don't win, 0-2, all right? If they're somehow pulled this off, now they're 1-1 and, now it doesn't look so bad. But yeah, you better start winning some of these division games because look, the way to eventually get to the postseason is you got to do well in your division. You've got to start there. And I think, when we discussed this, I think on our first show, I think the Giants did close the talent gap a little bit with the Cowboys. They should be competitive with the Cowboys, but the Giants have been their own worst enemy, and they've got to stop doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels like, and this is ridiculous to say, but I was thinking it, so I'm just being honest. It feels like if there's any winnable, gettable NFC East games for the Giants, it's against Dallas, Mark.
We said that last week too, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, but I mean, you're supposed to. You have to win your division. At least you won in your division, right? And as we said last week, if the Giants could split, they're going to split with the Eagles. Now you got to split with Washington. If you could split with Dallas, that'd be great. But if you could sweep Dallas, that'd be great. Did the Giants close the distance with the Cowboys? Yes. I think we think they closed the distance with Washington. But man, you can't fall 0-2 in the division. That's almost like being down 2.5, 3 games in your own division. You're right, because you're not going to you can't really make those up. So the Giants got to stop this as fast as they can. This is funny. Jay just mentioned this. I don't remember ever seeing the league having division games this early. You know, it's usually later in the season where when it really means something and they want that. But you know, it puts the onus on the teams to really start fast, so to speak.
Yeah, I was going to say in regards to the line, I know we don't talk about it much, but it started off as Dallas laying 4. Then we found out that it went to 6. Now it's back down to 4.5. It gives you an idea of what the country thinks of the Cowboys and Giants, what Vegas thinks of the Cowboys and then the Giants. But again, to me, and 44.5, by the way, is the over-under. Patricia, to me, I'm telling you, it's going to be under.
I think it will be too. I'd be surprised if it goes over. I mean, once upon a time, the Dallas and Giant matchup was like the must-see TV game. You know, I mean, there's a bunch on the NFL calendar, but that was the must-see. And it just seems like a little bit of the luster has come off of the Star in recent years, and of course, the Giants haven't been very good in recent years. So now it becomes just another game, but it's an opportunity for both sides to actually, you know, make this must-see TV once again.
Yeah, Mark, I harken back to those days, late 80s, early 90s, when the Giants were as great as they were. Those Cowboy games were something else.
They were fun to play in, too, especially when we were winning most of them. So that was always fun. But, yeah, those games were great. I mean, whether you're playing down there in Dallas or in Jersey at the Meadowlands, fun, exciting. You know what you're going to get. You know, Dallas is going to be Dallas and their fans, and the Giants fans always supported us. You know, I think this game will be a good one. I think it'll be a great test for the Giants to see exactly where they stand in the NFC East. I think last week's game, hopefully we didn't see the real Giants because that was ugly. I think this week, hopefully we'll see what we expect to see. And hopefully the Giants will do well on their redo.
Yeah, I was just going to say bounce back. There's only one way to go, and that's up, Patricia, because they were so bad last year and obviously last week. Only one way to go.
Yeah, I mean, look, if they turn in another clunker, the cries from the fans, and justifiably so, are going to get louder for change. And at some point, you know, the last thing you want is for your season to be circling the drain this early. So the Giants at least show improvement. Even if you lose by, you know, a couple points here and there or keep it close, show improvement across the board because they were flatter than day-old soda or pop, depending on where you live. They were just flat. And you just can't have that. I mean, like I said before, you get 17 games to play to show your product off. And so far, the product that they put on the field has not been very good. The fans deserve better.
Agreed. I was going to say the fans will be clamoring and yelling and booing for Dart to play. But at some point, Mark, they might actually be booing Dable and Shane and Mara and all the organization from top to bottom. They might want those guys gone, let alone Dart to start.
Yeah, but they may want that to happen this early. Regime change ain't gonna happen. So you have to ride this wave with the coach and the general manager until the end of the season. But on the other part, Jackson's Dart start playing. If the Giants are struggling, the first half of the Dallas game, I wouldn't pull away from putting Dart in, but it all depends on how the offensive line is looking. You know, if they're looking decent and it's just Russell Wilson not doing what he could do, okay, let's put the kid in and see what he does. But if it's bad all the way around, you got to ride that horse until the end of the game, and maybe week 3, you get Thomas back, and then we'll see if they put Jackson in to start.
Nobody thinks the Giants are good. So from that perspective, there's might not be much pressure on the Giants. That being said, this is men, professionals, coaching or playing for their jobs, for their security, for their future. And that is a lot to put on a team considering it's week 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? You can do something about it. You can only control what you can control, and it starts with each individual. Look yourself in the mirror and say, am I giving my best? And if the answer is no, you better rectify that situation. You can't look and say, oh, the guy next to me is playing like garbage. Worry about your own shot first, and then everything will come together. And I don't know, sometimes during the course of a game, you get guys who try to do their job and the other guy's job, and that creates problems because you're one person. You can only do one job at a time. And that's where, things get a little, messy. So the Giants, they just got to look in the mirror and say, look, this is an opportunity. We can't keep squandering it. We've got to bring our best. And at the end of the day, if we haven't, then we deserve to lose.
Yeah. Mark, I was going to say the Pittsburgh Pirates don't have any good players. They stink. The Chicago White Sox don't have any good players. They stink. The Giants have a lot of good players. Why do they stink?
That is the $100,000 question. I don't know. But, it's something is just isn't clicking. And I wish I could put my finger on it. I don't know. But at some point, and listen, I'm not trying to say we're the Titanic. I'm just saying somebody in that organization upstairs knows they got to see what we don't see. They must see a vision that I just can't see through my rose-colored glasses. I can't see it. But what I do see is this same thing happening every year. The start. That has been consistently bad. I don't like it. And I'm sure the fans don't like it either. So,
Yeah, I was going to say, Patricia, what I said to myself after the end of the first game was, I cannot believe, 1, we're doing this again, and 2, we have to do this for 4 months.
Yeah, I was the same way. I was flabbergasted. I'm sitting there, I'm watching this game unfold, and I'm writing down all the questions I have, like, why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why aren't they doing this? And having seen them during the summer and just kind of now built up an expectation, if you will, what to expect from Brian Dable. And he did change some stuff up, but there were just some other things that I just said, I wish he had done it a little differently, And one thing I'll point to is I would have played the starters in every single preseason game. They went from preseason 2, then they skipped preseason 3, and that was almost 21 days in between games. That's an awfully long layover. All right. Now I get it. Football is not like, football is like riding a bike. Once you get back on, you should theoretically be okay and be able to pick up where you left off. But sometimes your fundamentals fall off a little bit. And I can't help but wonder if some of the fundamentals fell off a little bit when you have that big of a layover.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. And it was really interesting conversations over the summer in regards to starters playing the preseason. And obviously, as we talked about earlier, the Giants switched that up, at least for most of the starters, not all of them, obviously. But again, for some reason, that has not translated into the regular season, at least through one game. I know we're being dramatic here. But again, they played in the preseason, a lot of them, but very interesting to see how things have sort of translated into the regular season, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I agree with you, Patricia, you gotta play your starters. I would have played all my starters in every single game. The league lost one preseason game, so you got to make it up somehow. So what would you do? You got to play. You try to sit your players one game in the third game, or what? I would have played all of them. you're going to play at least a quarter in each game. That sets the pads. It gets your timing down, gets everything down, gets your camaraderie going, keeps you solid. When you don't start your starters for the last preseason game or you skip the first preseason game, you never make that time up. That's real time that you cannot make up. And sometimes, so this last week, it shows early.
I think things improve for the Giants. Not sure they win just because I've been so beaten down. Patricia, your thoughts on performance rather than result?
I think they're going to be a little bit better. I'm saying that because everybody who listens to me knows that I'm the picture of optimism. I give people the benefit of the doubt. I just don't think they can be as bad as they were last week. Now, if they are, we've got problems in the land of the Giants. I mean, serious problems. I think, they've gone back. They're not panicking in the locker room. I can tell you that for a fact. Everybody's like, okay, we know we weren't very good in the first game, but we also know that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. But as we have seen with this team in recent years, it gets, late very early. So they had better, come out with a little bit more energy than what I think they showed against Washington and just deliver some punches, punch Dallas in the face, because this is just not acceptable. Once you get past Dallas, now you've got two tough customers coming up. You got the Chiefs, you've got, the Chargers coming in, 2 home games. If you don't pick up the energy and bring that energy into week 3 and week 4 at home, then, say goodnight, folks.
Yeah. Mark, your expectations for Sunday?
Just show me something. Show me something on the positive side. Show me that you saw what we saw last week was abysmal. Do better than what you do. And like I said, like what Trish said, if you don't win, cool. Just show me you making progress. Show me that you give a damn, because last week was embarrassing. Another word I used, but just show me that you care. Okay, show me progression, not regression. Come out hungry, and if we get a win, cool. I love it.
All right, we all give a damn. Hopefully the Giants give a damn as well. Last week you got the NFC East preview, and it's not too late to binge every Locked On Division preview. Be the most informed NFL fan in an 8-episode series, bringing you every division winner, breakout star, and Super Bowl contender. Find the link in the description to the Locked On NFL playlist on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Amazing stuff. A quick hour. It's the Giants Squad Show, and hopefully when we see you next on Sunday, it's after a win. For Patricia and Mark, I'm Jay. See you soon.